It's a moment of pure panic for any homeowner, right? You discover water where it absolutely should not be. And that sinking feeling, sometimes literally, can be just overwhelming. But here's the good news. What feels like total chaos can actually be managed with a really clear scientific process. So let's dive in and demystify what really happens when water damage strikes and how the pros turn your home back into a safe, dry space. Here's the plan. We're going to follow the entire journey, from that initial shock and the invisible threats that creep in, all the way to the professional response and the actual science they use to make things right. By the end, you'll have a clear roadmap from chaos back to a safe, restored home. Okay, so let's set the scene. You come home from work, or maybe you wake up in the middle of the night to that sound. You know the one, dripping. Or, even worse, gushing. The crisis has officially begun. It's a really crucial question, because what happens in these first few minutes and hours can be the difference between a minor cleanup and a huge reconstruction project. You see, the water doesn't just sit there. It migrates. It soaks into absolutely everything it touches. And the source, well, it can be almost anything. It's not just the big dramatic burst pipe you see in the movies. It could be a sneaky AC drain line that's been silently dumping water into your ceiling, or a washing machine that just decides to overflow, or a simple roof leak from one of those afternoon thunderstorms. The source matters, but the immediate result is always the same: a whole lot of unwanted water. Now, once you've stopped the source and you've cleaned up the visible puddle, you might think you're in the clear, right? But the real problem, that's the one you can't see. This is where the invisible threat begins to take over. And you are on a deadline. In a humid climate, you've got about 24 to 48 hours before mold starts to grow. That's it. All that moisture that's trapped in your drywall, your insulation, your subfloor, it's the perfect breeding ground. The clock starts ticking the second things get wet. This, right here, is probably the most critical concept to understand. See, anyone can get something surface dry with a few towels and a fan. It looks dry, it feels dry. But the professional standard is structurally dry. That means using special moisture meters to prove that the hidden stuff, like the wood framing and subfloors, are actually dry. One approach looks fine for a week, the other protects your home for years to come. And really, skipping that professional step means you're risking much, much bigger problems down the road. You're not just dealing with a water stand anymore. You're potentially setting yourself up for mold, rot, and air quality issues that can affect your family's health and your home's value. So how do the pros handle this chaos? Well, they don't guess. They use a controlled, systematic process. It all comes down to a proven three-phase response that just works. The game plan is actually pretty straightforward. It starts with assessment and extraction, then moves into that critical structural drying phase, and it all finishes up with completion and any repairs that are needed. This isn't guesswork. It's a standard, repeatable process. Phase 1 is all about speed and accuracy. Technicians show up, often within an hour, and they start using tools like thermal imaging cameras to literally see where the water has spread behind your walls. Then, powerful truck-mounted pumps get to work, pulling out the bulk of the water immediately to stop any more damage in its tracks. Now, Phase 2 is where the real science kicks in. This is about bringing in an arsenal of specialized equipment. And I'm not just talking about fans. We're talking high-velocity air movers and, most importantly, LGR dehumidifiers. They monitor the progress every single day to make sure your home is getting structurally dry, not just surface dry. So let's dive a little deeper into that science. Because what really separates a professional from an amateur is understanding the technology and the industry standards that guarantee you're going to get results. First thing you have to know, not all water is created equal. Professionals immediately classify the water contamination level. Category 1, that's clean water from a supply line. But Category 3, or black water, that comes from sewage or storm flooding, and it's highly contaminated. This one decision dictates the entire cleanup process, from the safety gear they wear to whether materials have to be completely torn out and thrown away. Believe it or not, there's a whole science behind this, and it has a name: psychrometry. I know it sounds super complex, but it's really just about the relationship between air, temperature, and humidity. Professionals basically create a controlled environment inside your house to maximize evaporation, literally pulling water molecules out of your walls and floors in the most efficient way possible. And this is their secret weapon: LGR dehumidifiers. These things are powerful enough to create an incredibly dry environment, even in the muggiest climates. They can pull moisture out of dense materials like concrete and hardwood, something your little home dehumidifier could never, ever do. This is the tech that ensures a truly complete drying job. Okay, once the structure is verifiably dry, the process moves into its final phase, navigating the recovery. This is all about getting your home back to normal and, dealing with the administrative side of things, like insurance. For a smooth insurance process, the key is documentation. It's all about the proof. That's why professional restoration companies give you detailed logs, photos, and moisture readings. It proves the extent of the damage and all the work that was performed. This data is exactly what insurance adjusters need to see to approve your claim. But here's the best part. You don't have to navigate this maze alone. A dedicated project manager basically acts as your advocate. They speak the adjuster's language and handle all the back and forth communication. Their whole goal is to maximize your coverage and make a really stressful process as simple as possible for you. So what does all this look like on a calendar? Well, the emergency response and that initial water removal, that happens within the first hour. The scientific drying process usually takes about 3 to 5 days. After that, the equipment is removed, and if you need any reconstruction, that could take a few more weeks. It's a process, but it's one with a clear beginning, middle, and end. So, we'll leave you with this question. Now that you understand the whole process, from the invisible threat of hidden moisture all the way to the science of structural drying, is your home prepared? Because when it comes to a water emergency, knowing who to call and what to expect is probably the most important first step you can take.